Hello everyone, John AG here. Welcome back to my channel, Aurex. If you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. In this channel, you will find the real information, the real market updates that everyone else cannot tell you. So please subscribe to this channel, and I love you all of my subscribers, for your incredible support. And please, I need you to watch this video till the very end, because YouTube will not push my videos to more people unless you stay engaged. The algorithms suppress the truth, but together we can force this message out. Today is May 6th, 2026. I want you to remember this date, because by the time we reach December of this year, the financial landscape of the world will be utterly unrecognizable to the average citizen. We are standing on the precipice of the largest wealth transfer in the history of human civilization. Today, we are breaking down the imminent mathematical death of the United States Treasury bond, and why, as a direct result, physical silver has just exploded past $50 an ounce, and why it is never coming back down. He leans forward, his expression dead serious. I want you to lean in and listen very closely to what I am about to say, because your financial survival depends on understanding this mechanism. For nearly a century, the United States Treasury bond was considered the bedrock of the global economy. It was universally labeled as the risk-free asset. When the stock market crashed, investors ran to bonds. When geopolitical wars broke out, foreign central banks parked their wealth in American debt. It was the safe haven. But today, in 2026, that bedrock has turned into financial quicksand. Why? Because the math has finally broken. To understand the catastrophe we are watching unfold, you must understand the debt spiral. The national debt of the United States has now screamed past a staggering $40 trillion. For years, the government could afford to carry this debt because interest rates were artificially suppressed at zero. The central planners engineered a false reality. But inflation, the inevitable consequence of printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, forced their hand. They had to raise rates. And when they did, they triggered a ticking time bomb. Today, the interest payments alone on the national debt have eclipsed the entire defense budget. Let that sink in. The government is spending more money just to service the interest on its past debt than it is spending to protect its borders or fund its military. It shows two lines intersecting: the rapidly rising cost of government interest payments and the flatlining tax revenues. Think about this from a purely logical human perspective. Imagine you have a neighbor who is $400,000 in debt. He earns $50,000 a year, but he spends $100,000 a year. Every single month, he has to take out a new credit card just to pay the minimum balance on his old credit cards. Now, imagine that neighbor comes to you and asks to borrow your hard-earned life savings, promising to pay you back in 10 years at a 5% interest rate. Would you give him your money? Absolutely not. You would know with absolute certainty that he is completely bankrupt and you are never getting your purchasing power back. This is exactly what is happening to the US Treasury market right now on a macro global scale. The United States government must borrow trillions of dollars every single quarter just to keep the lights on. To borrow that money, they must issue bonds. But here is the terrifying part that the mainstream media anchors on CNBC and Bloomberg are desperately trying to hide from you. The world has stopped buying. For decades, foreign nations were forced to recycle their trade surpluses into US Treasuries. It was the unwritten rule of the petrodollar system. But the geopolitical chessboard has been violently flipped. Look at the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the dozens of new member states that have joined the coalition over the last 2 years. They are not just stepping away from the dollar, they are actively dumping American debt. They have seen how the dollar was weaponized. They have realized that holding paper promises from a bankrupt empire is a fool's errand. Instead, they have been secretly, aggressively, and relentlessly hoarding physical commodities. They are draining the Western vaults of gold and silver. Hyperinflation in the Weimar Republic, citizens carrying wheelbarrows of useless paper cash just to buy a loaf of bread. This transitions into modern, stark footage of empty grocery store shelves and digital price tags flickering with ever-increasing numbers. This brings us to the inescapable reality of hyperinflation. When the government issues debt that no one in the free market wants to buy, who buys it? The buyer of last resort, the Federal Reserve. The central bank is forced to step in and purchase the government's debt to prevent a catastrophic default. But how do they buy it? With money that does not exist. They type digits into a computer. They print the currency. This is the monetization of debt, and it is the textbook historical trigger for hyperinflationary collapse. Hyperinflation is not just a phenomenon of high prices. It is a deeply psychological event. It is the moment when the public consciousness breaks. It is the moment when you, your neighbor, and the shopkeeper down the street simultaneously realize that the paper currency in your wallet is losing value by the hour. We call this the velocity of money. For years, the velocity of money was stagnant because people were saving, or the printed money was trapped in the stock market and the banking sector. But now, that dam has broken. The money is flooding into the real economy. People are no longer saving dollars. They are rushing to get rid of them as fast as humanly possible, trading dying paper for physical goods, for food, for energy, for anything that holds intrinsic value. This is why your standard of living feels like it is evaporating. This is why the middle class is being systematically hollowed out. Inflation is not an accident. It is not caused by greedy corporations or supply chain glitches. It is a deliberate, hidden tax. It is a silent, insidious thief that creeps into your bank account in the dead of night and steals the hours of your life, the blood and sweat you sacrifice to earn those wages. The system is fundamentally designed to reward the massive debtors, the government and the banks, and completely decimate the savers. The lighting shifts, making the metal gleam brilliantly. Bold text flashes across the screen. Silver explodes past $50. But in the smoldering wreckage of the sovereign bond market, something extraordinary is happening. Something that the financial elites told you was impossible. Something they mocked as a relic of the past. Physical silver has violently exploded past $50 an ounce. And let me be crystal clear with you. This is not a temporary spike. This is not a speculative bubble. What you are witnessing is a fundamental, structural revaluation of the most manipulated asset on planet Earth. For decades, the price of silver was artificially suppressed by the big bullion banks and the paper markets like the COMEX. They played a fraudulent game of musical chairs. They sold hundreds of ounces of paper silver, digital contracts, for every one single ounce of physical silver that actually sat in their vaults. They used this massive influx of paper supply to smash the price down, keeping the illusion of the strong dollar alive. But nature always reasserts itself. The physical reality has finally broken the digital lie. The vaults have been drained. The bluff has been called. You must understand that silver is a schizophrenic metal. It possesses a dual identity that makes it entirely unique. On one hand, it is the ultimate industrial metal. It is the most electrically conductive, thermally conductive, and reflective element known to science. You cannot have the modern world without it. The green energy revolution is entirely dependent on silver. Every single solar panel requires vast amounts of silver paste, and global solar demand has skyrocketed by hundreds of %. Every electric vehicle rolling off the assembly line requires miles of silver-lined wiring. But it goes much deeper than that. The artificial intelligence boom that has consumed the world requires massive, unprecedented data centers. The high-end microchips and semiconductors powering these AI supercomputers demand silver to function efficiently without overheating. The industrial demand alone has put the silver market into a structural, unfixable deficit. The world is consuming far more silver than the mining industry can pull out of the ground. But the industrial story is only half of the equation. The other half, the half that is driving this explosive price action today, is raw, unadulterated human fear. When the bond market dies and the currency begins to rot from hyperinflation, where does the smart money go? Where does the institutional wealth run to hide? It cannot all go into gold. Gold has its place, but gold is already pricing the average citizen out of the market. The big money, and the panicked retail money, is flowing directly into the devil's metal. It is flowing into silver. Silver is the money of the people. It is divisible, it is portable, and it is universally recognized in every corner of the globe. Ask yourself this critical question. If you are holding a 10-year Treasury bond today, what do you actually own? You own a promise from an entity that is $35 trillion in debt to pay you back in a currency that they are infinitely printing. You own nothing but counterparty risk. But if you hold a physical silver bar in the palm of your hand, you hold an asset with zero counterparty risk. It does not require a power grid to exist. It cannot be deleted by a hacker. It cannot be printed into oblivion by a corrupt central bank. It is financial sovereignty in its purest physical form. And suddenly slammed to a halt on a massive red-circled date, December 2026. The sound of a heavy vault door slamming shut echoes. The timeline is accelerating faster than anyone predicted. The reason we are looking at December of this year as the ultimate breaking point comes down to a terrifying concept known as the maturity wall. Throughout the final quarter of 2026, trillions of dollars of old, short-term United States debt is coming due. It is maturing. The government does not have the cash to pay the principal on those bonds. Therefore, they must roll over the debt. They must hold massive treasury auctions, attempting to sell trillions in new bonds to pay off the holders of the old bonds. But what happens when they throw a party and no one shows up? That is the nightmare scenario that keeps the Federal Reserve Chairman awake at night. When the Treasury tries to auction off that staggering amount of debt before December, and the foreign buyers refuse to bid, and the domestic banks are too choked with toxic assets to absorb it, the auction will fail. The bond market will freeze. And in that exact moment, the Federal Reserve will have only one choice. They will announce yield curve control. They will announce quantitative easing infinity. They will be forced to print more currency in a matter of weeks than they printed in the entire 20th century. And when that tsunami of freshly printed fiat currency hits the economy, the purchasing power of the dollar will evaporate. The hyperinflationary fire, which is currently burning in the walls of our financial house, will engulf the entire structure. A weary construction worker looking at a bill, a mother at a kitchen table, her head in her hands, surrounded by paperwork, an elderly man staring blankly at a bank statement. This is the human cost of the central banking experiment. This is the tragedy that the economic textbooks fail to capture. Behind every inflation statistic is a shattered dream. Behind every basis point hike is a family forced to choose between heating their home and feeding their children. Think about the grandfather who worked the assembly line for 40 grueling years. He did everything right. He saved his money, he lived below his means, and he put his life savings into a conservative portfolio of government bonds, trusting the system to protect him in his twilight years. Today, he is waking up to the horrifying reality that his lifetime of labor has been stolen through the devaluation of the currency. He realizes his safe pension can barely cover his property taxes. Think about the young couple, working 2 jobs each, desperately trying to save a down payment for their first home. Every time they manage to save $10,000, the price of the home moves $50,000 out of reach. They are running on a treadmill that is constantly speeding up, engineered by a system that requires their perpetual debt servitude. I read your comments every single day. I read the emails you send me. I hear the pain, the frustration, and the profound anxiety in your stories. It breaks my heart, but it also fuels my fire. It is why I sit in this chair and speak into this camera. The media, the politicians, the Wall Street executives, they look down on the working class. They tell you that inflation is cooling. They tell you that the labor market is robust. They gaslight you with doctored statistics while they quietly exit their own massive stock positions and buy up hard assets. They are telling you to stay calm and remain inside the burning building simply so you don't clog up the exits while they escape out the back door. I am looking you directly in the eye right now and telling you, get out of the building. Stop measuring your wealth in dying dollars. Stop holding your financial energy in paper promises. When silver crossed $50, a massive wave of retail investors thought to themselves, I missed the boat. It's too late. I'll wait for a pullback. Do not fall into that psychological trap. In a true hyperinflationary environment, there are no meaningful pullbacks because the measuring stick itself is broken. You are not watching silver go up. You are watching the dollar collapse in real time. We are heading into an era where price discovery becomes impossible. If the historical ratio between gold and silver reasserts itself, and it will, and gold pushes toward $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000 an ounce, then silver at $50 is an absolute gift. It is the final, fleeting opportunity for the average, hard-working person to front-run the institutional stampede. Wealth cannot be destroyed. It can only be transferred. During a currency collapse, wealth is violently transferred from those who hold fiat currency and paper assets to those who hold physical commodities and tangible resources. The geopolitical chessboard has been set. The petrodollar system has fractured. The trillions of dollars that were exported overseas over the last 50 years are now washing back onto American shores. Foreign nations are sending our inflation back to us, trading their excess dollars for American real estate, infrastructure, and heavy metals. This returning tsunami of currency is the final accelerant for the hyperinflationary fire. If you understand the math, you do not need to be afraid. Fear is the byproduct of ignorance. Preparedness is the byproduct of knowledge. This is exactly why Aurex matters. I did not build this platform to offer you conventional financial advice, and I did not build it to peddle sensational hype. I built this channel because I saw the mathematical certainty of this exact moment. I analyzed the debt to GDP ratios, I studied monetary history from Rome to Weimar to Zimbabwe, and I knew that the United States was not immune to the laws of economics. I want you to be the person who survives this storm. I want you to be the father, the mother, the individual who, 5 years from today, looks back at the chaos of 2026 and feels a deep sense of relief. I want you to be able to say, I saw the signs, I listened to the truth, I stepped out of the fiat matrix, I stacked physical silver, and I protected everything I love. The people who are screaming that $50 silver is a bubble are the exact same pundits who told you that the inflation of 2021 was merely transitory. They are the same talking heads who called Bitcoin a scam at $100. They have been disastrously, catastrophically wrong at every major pivot point in modern financial history. Do not let their arrogance become your poverty. Wall Street traders panicking, juxtaposed with serene, calm footage of a person holding silver coins, walking through a quiet forest representing peace of mind. The steps you take in the next few months will dictate your family's financial trajectory for the next 3 generations. You must brutally examine your exposure. Are you heavily weighted in paper assets? Do you hold massive amounts of cash in a banking system that is teetering on the edge of insolvency? Remember the cardinal rule of the new economy. If you cannot physically hold it, you do not truly own it. Counterparty risk is the silent killer of wealth. Physical silver is not just an investment, it is an insurance policy against the arrogance of central planners. It is the bridge that will carry your purchasing power safely across the chasm of currency collapse and into the new, commodity-backed economic system that is rising in the East. The window of opportunity is slamming shut. As we approach December, as the maturity wall hits and the bond market fractures, the physical silver supply will vanish from the retail market. You will log on to bullion dealers and you will see out of stock across the board. The premium on physical metal over the fake paper spot price will explode to levels we have never witnessed. Take action while you still have the luxury of time. Educate your family. Protect your labor. John A.G. looks directly into the lens with a look of profound sincerity and urgency. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Your attention, your willingness to seek out the truth in a world built on lies, means more to me than you can possibly know. To my longtime subscribers, the ones who have been sounding the alarm with me for years, thank you for your unwavering loyalty and your incredible love. To the newcomers who are just waking up today, welcome to the family. We do not just analyze charts and numbers here, we discuss the reality of the human condition. Please, hit that subscribe button right now if you haven't already. Smash the like button so the algorithm is forced to share this video. And most importantly, leave a comment down below. Tell me exactly what you are seeing on the ground in your local community. Are you seeing the prices skyrocketing? Are the shelves emptying? Are you holding your physical silver tight? Your comments are a beacon of light for others. They show the world that they are not alone, that they are not crazy, and that what they are experiencing is undeniably real. Stay safe out there, stay fiercely vigilant, and above all else, stay prepared. I'm John A.G., this is Aurex, and I will see you in the next one.